our third time at Cloud Studios recording.
Yes.
The second time, we just kind of hung out because
Things happened.
Things
Well, you'll
happened.
find out in a few weeks
Yeah.
what we were doing. It was a very special and a very different episode of Semi Woo. We have some surprises up our sleeves for all of you loyal listeners out there on the line. Every time I say that, I want to do a live show. We're going to do some live shows too because we love getting emails and texts and information from you guys. So, that being said, anytime during this episode or any episode that you would like to text us a question, you can text either Amanda at 949 456 4602.
Just text Amanda. I ain't giving out my number.
Oh, how does I give our number? That's okay. You can text me.
Actually, I don't really have a phone anymore. It's like dated. Like I'm like, why pay a cell phone bill?
Yeah, right.
No.
Yeah, text me some questions and we will try to answer them. This is not live, but we do our best to answer your questions in the following episodes, which today we will be answering some questions towards the end of our show. So that's something to look forward to, is the questions that we've gotten specifically about what we're talking about today, which is
the jobs we've had, quit, and then the dream job we've just currently acquired.
Yes.
So
So it's about
gamut.
it's about jobs. It's not about how to get jobs.
Jobs.
Oh gosh. Well, although we could tell you that.
I can tell you how to get a job. I can tell you how to lose a job. I can tell you how to fake a job. I can tell you.
I can tell
Just
you how to
this morning-
interview in a job.
Just this
Anything.
morning, I had a friend. She was getting a job, and she needed me to be one of her references.
Oh yeah.
And she'd been trying to call me and get a hold of me to like give me the scoop, because I need to know who I am.
Oh,
to.
yeah.
Am I your manager? Am I the accountant?
Was I the CEO?
Whatever. Was I the CEO? What did I say about what was our relationship? And I never got a hold of her. The guy calls me this morning, and it was like a Tacoma number, so I was like, hell no, I'm not answering this. I've been getting lots of sales calls lately.
Uh-huh.
Luckily, I answered, and instead of being a BIA, I just was like, hello, hi, and I let him go, and it was this guy. And he was really sweet. And
What did he
was like,
say?
hi, I'm calling to ask you some questions. Is Alexa,
That's okay.
Well,
It's fine.
bleep, is providing a reference, or like provided you as a reference.
Yeah.
I slayed it.
Oh.
I'm so charming.
What did she
You
say
know,
you
you
guys
use all
worked
the
together? What was the
words.
nature of your relationship?
Like I was the maitre d', which I was. That's
Mhm.
true. And I was like, her I didn't want to get too crazy and be like, her depth of wine knowledge is second to none. You know what I mean? But I sold like her abilities and her spirit, and like it was cool. And the guy was like, sold. It's fun to do that.
Yeah.
So if you need a reference, talk to me.
Exactly.
Anywho.
We've all done that for each other. You're pretty much on every application. I'm like, I gotta put you.
Yeah.
And then I'll just put one of the many businesses we've had. And then guess what? I would say out of the ready for this?
Yeah.
Ballpark, how many jobs you've had? Your whole life. Just top of your head. I would say
65.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I'd say about that.
Yeah.
Of the 65 jobs I've had, I think that you have been a reference on almost all of them, at least in the last 13
Likewise.
years.
Definitely
And
my Aunt
how many
Joan.
times have they called you? Like once. How many times have you?
2
Maybe.
of 65.
Mhm. Hardly.
And it's not
Ever.
just jobs you haven't gotten; it's jobs you've gotten.
I know.
So
I know.
All right.
Yeah, like
'Cause-
big time jobs, like
yeah.
corporate jobs that they didn't call you.
Maybe I didn't answer
Because
it
you know
too.
why? And I think this is a big thing. And if anyone out there is a recruiter or works in HR, I've read a lot about this because I find it very interesting. But people know by the time you get an interview, they're already pretty sure about your skills,
Yeah, they're
right?
not
So
gonna
like they're
waste
sure
their
they're
time.
pretty decently sure about that. Then in the interview, they're like, "Do we like you? Do you fit here?
That's what that's for.
And can you answer some pretty, they can tell if you ask a question about this job, like, so, in your last sales position, it said that you were really great at cold calling. Like, describe a day cold calling. If you had never done that, you would be like, well, I
Right.
walk in and, but if you have done that, you're just like, okay, this is what I do. I get my
Right.
list of, I get 20 list of numbers the night before. I have those set up, and then I do some research during lunch. In the afternoon, I do another
Right.
call block. Like, they're going to know if you've done the job. Now, they don't know if you did it for, like, 4 years, which is what your resume said. But it's just your confidence that sells it, man.
Right.
It really does.
Yeah, and once they do the reference, like they're sold, they just are like it's a final 1-2 punch. So.
Oh, yeah. Once
or
you do the
they're
reference,
deciding
it's...
between people. So.
But I don't think they would use a reference.
And I
to
told her, I go,
decide.
hey, if you don't get the job, it ain't my fucking fault. That's what I'm saying, because I sold ya. It's so funny that we've had so many jobs, and I've never been fired. I have been asked to not return for another shift. One time, I was shuttle driver at on campus.
Oh yeah.
And I pretty much took every dare that I was.
But
that
you
was
were the
offered up.
least dangerous shuttle
Yeah,
driver of
I
Point
learned
Loma.
from the most dangerous.
Joe Briganti.
Yeah.
People hanging out
and
of all
Chris
windows and
Ziegler.
doors going 80 miles an hour down hills.
Yeah. I
Donuts,
jumped out. I wasn't
everything.
even good at it. They're like, all right, go super slow, go like 5 miles an hour, and then you got to jump out and run next to the shuttle and then jump back in. But I jumped out at like 7 miles an hour and then got so freaked that I never caught up with it. And so people in the back riding it had to like climb to the front and put the brakes on.
Wow.
But I felt like a badass. So that one I didn't.
When did they ask you not to come
quit
back?
that one? Like it was going to be the next semester, and I was like, cool, I'll get my dope shuttle job back. And they were like, oh, I think we're looking at other candidates.
Oh, candidates for
like,
the shuttle. That is too much.
Yeah, I've never been fired, but I have left many jobs.
Yeah,
usually
me too.
with dignity though.
Oh yeah, mostly.
Yeah.
They usually either know that you're on your way out, like in your spirit.
Yeah.
Or they just, a lot of the ones that I've either been like, politely like asked to do something else or have been fired from.
Mm-hmm.
The main jobs I've been fired from were corporations.
Yeah.
Starbucks, Apple. This last place was like a corporation of restaurants.
Yes.
They were all like a bunch of them. And you had to fit a certain mold. And if you didn't
Yeah.
fit their mold where you're going to like work your fucking ass off,
Right.
never say anything is wrong. Like if this pen goes here and you try to put it there, they're like,
Like
testing the system.
I don't work well in those. I don't work well in jobs where it kind of more flows with your abilities and what you like to do. When I worked at LJG, which is, I don't know if I ever worked corporate, but this was my first like awesome office job.
Yeah.
And
design firm,
if you're going to
right?
get an office job, yeah, it was a design firm. If you're going to get an office job, like this was the one. Like this was even before cool offices like Google and places started. They had like a cool office before.
It was like a
the cool office was a thing.
Office,
yeah, it was like a graphic design firm, and there's like glass and big block letters and stuff like hanging out, like rusted out signs and stuff. And our boss like, got us Guitar Hero to play at lunch, and there was like Red Bull stock. It was like a little mini WeWork.
Yeah, it was
already. And I was like the front desk and had this badass desk and a, Apple computer, huge screen. That job was awesome, and I loved the people that I worked with, and I got paid well, and I loved my boss, and they used my skills and my talent to help mold the job for me.
Yeah.
And I felt like I could do something there. But after like a year and a half, which that's even saying that, I'm like, wow, I stayed that long.
Wow.
It just wasn't right for me
to
sit
at you
at this desk and stare into a computer and type things.
Yeah.
And I would always, like, as I was trying to stay there, be like, okay, well, I do like some of it, like, oh, I get to hang out with, like, Candy, and, like, oh, I get to, like, we had lunches out, and, okay, well, I love working with people, and I greet people all day, but I was greeting, like, the FedEx guy, you know what I mean? Like, I don't need to see Ricardo every damn day. There's not much to say,
I know. And at the end of the day, the majority of the job involves something that neither you or I have the capability to comprehend, which is like 5 days a week, every week, from a certain time to a certain fucking time. I can't do that. And especially the times they make, which is like 9 to 5 or 8 to 5 or 8 to 6 or 8 to 8 in my case. The jobs that I've had. And it's like, sit down and stare at the screen. And it's like, it's amazing how when I have a desk job, and I've had a few over the years, but when I do, and I'm like, maybe I should just do this and the benefits and the salary and all that, all that quote unquote awesome stuff. I get a little insurance, need to get my checkups on.
Yeah, get your checkups.
At the end of the day, I'm just having these existential crises at my desk all the time, and I certain people in the office will have them with you. Most people are like, they're just used to it. Like, this is a job. It's great. This is great. And I'm like, I get that thing like from Office Space where he's like, man was not meant to sit at a desk and like do fucking TPS reports. Like, I wasn't meant to do this. And meanwhile, you're like, okay, I have my tasks in my email. And then all of a sudden this crisis comes over you and you're like, I wasn't meant for this.
Right.
My body was not meant for this. Yes. My eyeballs were not meant for this.
Yeah.
And I love computers. I still work on computers every day. Yeah. Even in my dream job, I have my time. I love using the internet, of course, but not when someone's like, you have to for this many hours at these days all the time.
Right.
No matter what it is, no matter how much money I've made. The biggest job I had, I worked for Zillow, in sales. And by all check boxes, it should have been the perfect job. Like, the office looked over the Puget Sound. sunsets, sunrises,
Free
floor to
snacks.
ceiling windows, free snacks, free food almost
And those
every
Christmas
single day.
parties, like I love when my friends
Like
get
$3 to $5 million
like big
Christmas parties.
That's my favorite.
Everyone gets a Fitbit every year.
I try to meet people every year at Christmas that get one of those.
Oh yeah, you got to go to the parties.
Yeah.
Making tons of money, unlimited compensation, like wear whatever you want, listen to music whatever you want, kind of on your own schedule as long as you get their crazy workload done. Was just hating my life.
Yeah.
Just hating my life, even though I was like, but I'm making all this money, but I'm having all this power, like I'm the top of my team.
And it comes with prestige. Like my parents
totally
were like,
does.
Heather's like this, office manager at this really great firm, and I would send the pictures of my office to people, and I moved up, I got promoted. Like it feels like I was part of something and something I could be proud of in my parents' eyes, and in the eyes of my peers. I was like 22, 23, and I had like the best job. I had a real job, we called it at the time. I had a real job. And so it was really scary at the time where I was, starting to cry at my desk every day. And I was taking longer and longer at lunch. I already had like an hour and a half lunch, and then it went to 2 hours. And then I would just like leave.
I would come into your
hours
office
in the middle of the day,
pick you up, and we would like go to Costco or to the park or to the beach, and you'd come back at like 3:45 and then leave at like 4:30.
I couldn't do it. And then you start feeling bad, like these people are good to me, like somebody actually could get in here and rock this. And I'm like, it's not good for everyone.
No,
it's not good for everyone. And I took the first train out of there.
And some people love it. It's like no harm, no foul to people that love their office jobs. And I'm sure there's people listening that would be like, I would love to have that.
Absolutely.
Where it's like security, my own desk, my own money, all this things, my health care for my family, snacks, free lunch, free food, free. Oh my gosh, free. Discounts everywhere. You're respected by your peers, respected by your family. And that's pretty much a good measure to know that you're not following your heart, is that you have all the check boxes and you're miserable. I mean, by the end of that job, I was at the doctor's office and she was asking me what was wrong, and I was so panicked that I couldn't even say a sentence. It was like and she's like, your blood pressure is so high. She's like, what is going on? Do I need to send you to the emergency room? Couldn't even get it out because it had built up so much. And the pressure had built up so much, in this idea that like I should be able to do this, I should be able to hack this. I just gotta grind.
And
I just gotta grind.
It's here. I just gotta change my attitude.
I just have to change my attitude.
If not this, what? Because I didn't have really anything on the other side of it at that time. I didn't have anywhere to go. I didn't really have a dream job per se in mind.
No, not at all. Oh, not then.
I just before I got that job, I was broke. I didn't have money. Making ends meet kind of sucked.
Yeah.
And
yeah,
your sister, in a recession, your sister offered us a job selling home loans.
Basically, yeah.
Which
From a wholesale
I had
bank.
never even heard about in my life.
No clue.
And that was the first flight out of there. I was like, I'll take it.
Sure.
Because she said, you're not going to be at a desk, you're going to be walking around talking to people, and you set your own hours. Right there, I was like, that sounds dreamier.
Yeah,
I said, it sounds dreamier. And if I'm not really motivated by money, then dreamier is where you go to next. You know what I mean?
That's how you find your dream job, and that's why we're, in our 30s now, and it's just starting to take shape. And even now, it's just starting to take shape because of all of the contrast of all of the jobs that we've had. Like, I do like this, but I don't like that. And I do like this, but I don't like that.
To know your dream job.
It does. For some people, it doesn't.
Some people it doesn't.
We're not singular people. Some people are like, all I wanted to do is ballet, and that's all I'm going to do. And that's my focus. And I don't care if I'm teaching it, learning it, writing about it. It doesn't matter. I'm just going to do
graphic
the world.
Design feeds me. Like, this
Period.
is where it's at, and you do it.
But we like have these more esoteric, like I like working with people, which could be a million things, right? I do not like sitting at a desk all day. I don't mind desk time.
I don't mind desk work.
Or some computer time. But I cannot do it all day.
Girl.
I cannot do the same thing every day, period. Cannot.
No.
I cannot come in Monday.
And
I can't do Monday through Friday.
To be anchored to one day at any one time. It'll turn me off faster than anything.
No. I can't. And I love to work hard, but I don't like to work hard only during certain hours that someone tells me to work hard. And when we were younger,
and I like snacks.
do like snacks. Don't mind if they're free or if I have to get them myself. I actually don't like working alone. That's something we've done too, where it's like, oh, you know, a lot of the things right now are be a, you know, digital entrepreneur and you can travel the world and live wherever you want and work online.
Yeah.
And that sounds wonderful. And for some people it is. But if I think about that, like, oh, that'd be great. And you can go live in Bali and it's cheap, right? And you're at this low cost of living and you're working with American clients. So you're still making all this kind of like the American currency, but you're still pretty much working alone. And I don't like doing that. Like, I don't like sitting all day by myself. I do like the banter and the laughter of other people.
Well, that's why working in restaurants was like that next logical step. When we never sold one loan. Did we even sell one loan?
I don't think so.
No. But man, we really believed. We really had the moxie.
Yeah, we did.
We came in there guns a-blazing into all of our meetings.
We did our best.
We like went to Nordstrom's for a little old buy and return.
Yeah.
Scooped up a few pantsuits.
If you guys don't know what this is, we'll probably talk about this a lot. It's called B&R. If you hear say B&R, that means buy and return. Is it the most ethical practice? Probably not.
Because the system exists.
Right.
If it wasn't ethical, there'd be no means to buy something and then return it.
And by the way, when I do return things, I've either only worn it once or I've kept it intact to wear.
Yeah. We do solid B&Rs. Costco, another story. No problem.
No problem, Costco. Costco
I paid
fits
for a
this
membership.
into their
I don't
budget.
pay Nordstrom's to shop there.
I know. Costco goes, listen, we're going to have this free return policy. Here's where it makes sense. If they look at these numbers and they go, okay, if we let people return things whenever they want, they're going to buy X amount of more. Let's say, I'm using a stupid thing, $10 million more a year, right? If we don't let them return things, they'll buy 10 million less. Now, of that 10 million more that we make off of this confidence you get by being able to return it, there's probably going to be about 8 to 10% of people who take advantage of that system, right? Like, they buy and return everything, they get the money back. But the rest of the people don't.
They ain't going in there buying cameras for the travel weekend, printing out the pictures at Costco and returning it. True story.
How many times did we buy and return a block rocker speaker?
We have bought probably 6
in like 4 different states.
And they still let us buy block rockers.
When I was returning that last block rocker because I didn't need
I'm gonna get one for this weekend.
They're like, "Did you buy this in Brooklyn or New York or San Diego?" And I was in Orange County, and I'm like, "What?"
It looks like we're doing like a heist, like we're like selling them on the side, and we're gaming the system somehow, but we're not.
We're not. I don't know. That one was a crazy
you know
example.
What? I don't feel bad because there's a whole line of people after Christmas returning ornaments, after summer returning inflatables.
Hell yeah.
After like boozy weekends returning like beer or like some bags of chips unopened. It's why you shop at Costco.
I know. And they never, ever care. And when they do care, if someone gives me a side eye at Costco, I'm like, you better turn that eye around because
is not about caring.
Y'all never... Actually, one person recently asked me, like, why I wanted to return it, and I go, y'all don't ask that here. You ask for my card, and then you go, do you want cash or Costco credit?
Stand down, but
no!
Yeah, you just ask how I want the money back.
That's it. You say, like, oh, did you buy this in the last... Sometimes they'll say, like, in the last month, right? If it's beyond that, they have to change their computer. But when people... That's what prevents me from returning things other places, because when the person, like, picks up the item, like a shirt, right? And they look at it, and, like, they're judging, like, whether or not they would have returned it. They're like, so was there something wrong with
Those people have to have one modicum of, like, control and power. I get it.
And they go, so you didn't like it? Yeah, bitch, I didn't like it. Why would I? Oh, no, I loved it. I'm just, I hate myself when I'm returning things I love.
Well, actually, I have returned things I love for the money. But you
right.
ain't got to
but
know
it's like,
that.
if you're asking me these leading questions, like, so you didn't like it? I'm going to be like, yeah, return it. Like, why do you need to know that?
You should like it. You should buy this.
You should totally buy this. Yeah, I don't like those. I don't like the questioning.
Yeah. So, yeah, we were talking about our corporate jobs, and for the longest time we had this idea, and I think most people do, that you're either working a corporate real job or you work in a restaurant.
Or a service industry
type. Service industry job.
It's like blue collar, white collar,
and you know
classic.
What's a bummer about the service industry? There's so many badass, awesome dreamers, artists, great people working in restaurants and service industry, because of how it's set up. It's way easier in the service industry to, like, do your dream job.
Yeah, have flexibility.
Than a 9-to-5 job.
Yeah.
Because you need time during the day to, like, go to rehearsals or be more
tryouts,
flexible, or maybe
right.
you have a show and you have to switch things up, or
Yeah, you can get people to
Right.
trade your shifts. Like it's
It's
flexible.
flexible.
And for serving, I know for me, I've always said it's the most amount of money you can make in the shortest amount of
It's the
time.
most amount you can
It
make in the
is.
shortest amount of
Because you
time.
can work 20 to 25 hours a week,
Yeah,
really, honestly, which is not that many
absolutely.
hours,
And still
and make like
support.
$60,000.
Absolutely.
So you still have all this extra time to like really be pursuing your dream. Or if you
Or
work
even
like
a
four
little
days in a row,
bit.
you can have 3 days off. Dream job right there. Love
Right.
that, dude.
Love
Love four
that.
days in a row, 3 days off.
Love
What's
that.
this 5 day, 2 day bullshit? By
Doesn't
the
make
way,
sense.
invented in the 1920s.
Like it's
Everyone thinks
new.
that was like written into
No,
like the
it's
codes of
new.
humanity.
And no one likes it. You spend all damn week working your tail off, and then all Saturday you just party so hard, and
To
then
try to
Sunday you
forget
recover and run errands.
and go
And you
grocery
run
shopping.
this thing, it makes no sense to me. I always love serving because you could have these times where you could have like 3 days off in a row or 4 days off in a row. You can travel more. You can adjust your
Yeah,
schedule. I love working on my feet. I like the action of it.
I know.
And then I love the people, the teams. You're just kind of hanging out with great people, laughing and talking. You know, people are working on their dreams, so they have better stories than an office person that just got
Exactly.
wasted all weekend and went to Costco.
Hey, work hard, play hard, Heather.
You know,
Work hard, play
I'm
hard.
like, what are your stories, man?
Work hard, play hard.
In the service industry, you know, there's shows and people are doing art,
Exactly.
and it was really fun. You're
I
getting
was
tips.
hard pressed, even when I worked at Zillow, which was a lot of people ages 21 to 33. Like that was like the great majority of in my department in sales, right?
Mhm.
Was the ages. And I would even say mainly like 22 to 28. Really young people, da 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 da. Some of these motherfuckers did not have a single story other than getting drunk
Right.
about their whole
Oh,
lives.
it's still working in the service industry doesn't mean you're cool.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah.
But
Right.
I am hard pressed to find. No, I'm talking
Oh.
about in Zillow. At Zillow, I like to find stories like where have you traveled? What have you
Oh,
done?
yeah,
What is
yeah,
your
yeah.
life?
Oh,
What is your
exactly.
passion? What is your
Right.
art? Nothing.
No.
People are like,
You know what? It's too hard to get inspired in an
It's
office job.
impossible.
Also, you
That's
have
the whole point.
12 to, if you're lucky, 20. You know when it's 20 days
No.
off a year.
No.
Yeah. To do to yourself. And people don't take them because you're in a mode of working all the time. And it's hard to break out of that when you work all the time. It's just your pattern.
It's just your pattern.
It's tough. And you know what's so funny? It's like in a restaurant, I was making more than I worked in an office job. I make more. It's more fun. It's more flexible. But there's a freaking stigma.
Huge.
And it's so funny. It's not just like my parents being like, well, I can't tell my friends you work in a restaurant either. I don't know why my parents here in Wisconsin
always,
but they do.
They do. You know.
It's like inside, everyone kind of feels like bad. I gotta get out of this and I think that's not just a stigma though. The servers, it's like we're so close to our dream that you can feel it and taste it. And every moment you are at the job, you know you're not doing it.
I know.
So it's tough.
And you know what? The people who do commit to the service industry, I have met them like professionals who are making like $80,000, $90,000, and they have friends and they know all the reps and they
It's
you know
awesome.
like they're in that world,
Yeah.
and you can tell they have this sense where they're like, this is an amazing, beautiful, flexible, awesome career. And if you work for a restaurant for a while, you can piece out for like 3 months,
dude,
at a time.
And people do, and that's why in New
And
York
come
they
back.
actually it's like summer substitute.
Uh-huh.
It's a thing because the best servers in New York, who it is a career, it's a high paid career. A lot of these men and women are sommeliers.
Right.
They have a high. It's like it's not just like
they're
I can
highly
put
educated.
food down on a table.
No,
When you
it's so
start
much more than
becoming a
that.
server, you are learning so much about wine, food preparation,
Cocktails,
management,
endless.
cocktailing, personalities of people,
Food is
how to
endless.
It's sales.
It is sales.
It is. It's actually.
It's
can
client
be a beautiful
management.
Career.
If you have
Client
regulars,
management.
it's clients knowing their names, remembering their family.
Oh my God.
When do they come in? What do they like to drink?
Manager.
I mean, there is so much to know about being a good
meal,
server.
Like being like, okay, well, here's what I would do. I would start with this, have this. This is a little spicy, so this sweet thing. It can actually be a really beautiful work, and you're also the extension of someone's dream for their place. So that's cool too. If you actually really love the chef.
And as a server, you're the extension of everything. You're the extension of chefs and line cooks who live their whole lives preparing this food.
Right.
The owner and the operating
And
people who are their whole life and like 90, 100 hours a week is there.
Working so hard.
The somms who have designed this wine list spent countless hours designing it.
Right.
Or someone who made a cocktail that was just like their passion and their research and everything went into it. And they spent 4 hours earlier that afternoon making every damn syrup and juice and everything that went into that. And you're the extension.
Every night, you know, the designer that designed the place. It's an atmosphere.
Yeah.
And servers have this ability to create atmosphere, which is like event planning, and make the whole thing come alive and make somebody have an awesome time. Because at the end of the day, dude, you remember the restaurants where you had a good time and not always the good meal. Or you can have a good meal, and if you didn't have a good time, that meal doesn't taste as good.
No, not at all.
It's so
This
a
is
part of
something.
it.
There was a someone I knew in San Diego. He kind of ran a like design firm that would help start restaurants and get the idea and the uniforms and like the concepts, right? And he was very the way he described the restaurant experience, like really just imbued in me a sense of pride of doing that job. Where he's like, think back to 3 months ago or 6 months ago that you went to a restaurant with some friends. If someone asked you today, like, what was that like? What was the red door? What was that like? You're gonna say like, yeah, the food was great. I think we had this like, I think I had like a steak or something, and you're not gonna remember the specific dishes, but if you had a wonderful time, you'll be like, it was awesome.
It was awesome.
That place is great. We had so much
So much
fun.
fun.
And all of that is like the atmosphere, the service.
It's the collection
It's the collection.
of it all.
You're not gonna be
Yeah.
like, well, unless you're like a food critic, like
Right.
the frites were undercooked, but
Right.
like if it's 3, 6, 9 months
A steak
later,
had a
it's
tone of
always
audacity, usually unfound
Yeah.
in Australian cuisine.
Whereas there's times, especially, and I'll say this about Seattle, and it has changed recently, but a few years ago when I was in Seattle, something I noticed about the dining here is that, hands down, anywhere I've been in the world, best food in the world.
Yeah,
Hands down.
I gotta say,
The food.
at every level.
Oh my gosh.
It's
the
just
commitment
so
to
hard to have a
excellence
bad dish.
and
And
the fresh
beauty of sourcing,
quality,
the quality
unbelievable,
ingredients.
the food. However,
Mm.
I have been to some of the nicest restaurants in Seattle and just had service that made me want to tear my eyes out. And
Yeah.
it was so difficult for me to enjoy the dish, even though like the taste, the texture, the
Yeah.
presentation, the actual
It's like you
dishes
don't
were
want to give it to them
beautiful.
when the
I know.
person's funky on the other side
Yeah.
of it.
When the server comes up and is like, "Do you guys want drinks?" You're like,
Or no
"Who
smile.
are you?
No smile.
Where
no
am I?
welcome.
What are you? Are you the server? Are you the drink person?" Like, and then you ask them this. I remember this one. I'm not going to say the name of the restaurant, but I was like a very complicated menu. It was from a different country, and it didn't have like appetizers and entrees. It was just all over the place, and you could tell it was designed for the server to help you like guide through the menu. Like, well, here you're going to start here, and these are small, and these get larger.
Yeah.
And so I was asking the server, I'm like, tell me your favorite dishes. Like, we want us. I was kind of telling her like, we're here to spend money.
Yeah.
Whatever you pick out, like I'm gonna
we'll
take.
go with it.
I'm gonna go with it, right?
Right.
Like I was there with my cousin,
Like
and
sell it.
and she's like, well, I'm a vegetarian, so like I don't really eat a lot of stuff here. Great. Didn't ask you that. Didn't ask you if you
Didn't
eat
ask
here.
you.
Didn't ask if you were a vegetarian. I asked you to design the
I'm
evening
not,
based
like,
on
I'm
your
not
knowledge of
interviewing
this
you.
restaurant.
I'm asking you to tell me what to eat, which is why
Yeah.
that's the basis of why I came here.
Yeah.
You could even go, man. It's like you'd be like, well, people love
Anything.
Fill in the blank.
Fill in the blank.
And you notice when
These
there's
are
a
the
good
most-
server
the
or a
chef's-
bad,
the-
and
the
this is
chef's
why it's
famous
like
dish.
serving isn't so easy.
Nope.
If you have a good server, that means they have created this high illusion for you.
Yeah.
That they are super happy to be there. You're the only one that they care about. This food's the best in the world, and you are going to have a great time.
And you have all their
That's what you
time and
gotta
all their
sell,
energy
and all the
yeah.
time in the world to
Yeah.
explain every single thing.
Right.
It's an illusion.
It is
There's
an
like
illusion.
crazy stuff going back in the kitchen. People are hungover. There's new bussers. Your manager is a dick. You got seated too many people. You don't.
You're out of the most popular dish that night.
You're out of the most. There's so many things on fire
in your head.
And when you come up to your table and you're cool, calm, and collected, just know, people out there, like, that is an art.
It is an art.
It's an art.
It's not easy. And I guarantee you that server, when they're talking to you, has like 18 other things on their mind.
There are literally 18 things in your mind at all times if you're a good server.
Yeah.
And you do them and you breathe and you run it and you do that for like 2-3 hours every
just
time you work.
Solid big time.
Solid big.
You're just exhausted.
It's a very hard job, and it's it can be rewarding when people are cool. And that's why it's such a bummer when you read a Yelp, because it's like, but y'all don't know what it took to even like pull this night off.
Right.
A lot of people don't know, because again,
they don't know.
If it's run well,
it's seamless. It looks like things just come out. It's beautiful. It's easy. You order it. There it is.
And that's when you notice when things don't run well, and like, oh my God, our food's taking 45 minutes, or like, this table sucks, or what's that smell, or this doesn't taste good. You know when it's not working out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when you can go and dine seamlessly and the food was beautiful and you come out and wonderful, that took so much effort to have that seamless experience.
People are like on their shit.
You're an experience generator, which is that's actually one of the
that was
after we come back.
Yeah,
after we come back from our break, you guys, we're gonna take a little break, drink some water. But as we're starting to shape and mold our dream, unique experience generator. That was kind of our first tagline of like, we like
so true.
that.
Yeah.
It absolutely is that. It sounds more like a machine, like unique experience generator.
And it spits out a paper. It's like, go and have a jump rope party with iced tea. It's like, all right, this. I guess we'll take this one.
Wear pink.
Wear pink
and party hats.
And the gift favors will be little umbrellas. It just gives you like a detailed
unique experience generator app.
App.
And you just spin the wheel and it creates something, and maybe you do that.
That's fucking cool.
Add it to the list of apps. What am I saying? Okay, this is when we need a break. All right, guys, we shall.
The unique experience generator beats new batteries. All right, guys, see you soon.
Okay, guys, we're back in town.
We're back in town.
Semi-woo, boo-boo-boo.
We were just talking about the dichotomy choice of working super corporate or in the service industry.
Yeah, that was kind of, you guys might have different ones, but that has been as people who have wanted to be entrepreneurs or work for ourselves or work independently, and then, you know, you have to eventually, like, go back to a real job. It's been, like, a choice between the service industry or corporate office jobs, and that's been a really limiting belief that I'm just recently really learning to get over, that you know, it's like either or.
Right.
Like I either have to sit at a desk and, you know, all the check boxes, make good money, have benefits, or work in a restaurant where I have more time and I'm still making great money.
You don't have health insurance.
Yeah,
that's the first thing parents say. But you don't have health insurance.
The time I've spent the most money on my health is when I have insurance. Somehow having health insurance makes me spend more money on healthcare. And I live in Southern California most of the time, so it's called Mexico, where it's 10 times cheaper, and a lot of the doctors are American anyway.
Inhaler.
Yeah.
From Dr. Bachman with his office in beautiful sunny Tijuana.
It's half the doctors in TJ are just American doctors who have cheaper rent.
Right.
And so they are like, come across the border. Right. It's no problem. It's funny when you talk to people throughout the world who haven't either lived, you know, because we basically grew up in like Mexico. San Diego's 20 minutes from the border. Yeah. It's 60% Spanish speaking that even live in the city.
Absolutely.
I mean, once you get to a certain point in the city, all of the billboards are in Spanish. Everything's Spanish. Mexican food everywhere.
Spanish, Mexican food everywhere.
Oh, way more Spanish speaking radio stations.
It's just like living in Mexico, and it's wonderful.
It's wonderful. Yeah. But because of that, like, we're so used to Mexican people, Mexican culture, going to Mexico, it's no problem. Right. So when you tell people, they're like, oh, I have to get this tooth surgery or whatever, and you're like, oh, just go to Mexico, and they're like, yeah, right.
You think you're like going to get your like kidneys removed by like a kitchen doctor with chickens running across. Like, dude, this guy's name is like Jim Taylor.
Yeah, I know.
And you know, he's just doing like,
he has like American board certifications, and
he comes across the border to go to Costco like everybody else.
Right. It's so funny.
It's
so when we left Seattle, we both, you were kind of doing, we've always switched off throughout the years, but you were doing the restaurant thing and I was doing the corporate thing, and I had saved up, I will say this, of course there's benefits to both, but I had saved up enough, a ton of money working in a sales job, which if you guys have any sales skills, you can totally do. You can always save money working in sales for a few years. And the good thing about sales, I will say this, as just a career path, you can jump in and jump out. Like most people I know who are in sales, they're like, I did a year here, 2 years here, 3 years here, a year here, 6 months here. So on your resume, if you've had a million kind of sales things, it's not looked down upon as much as something else, right? They're like, why have you worked everywhere? It's like, that's just the nature of sales.
And that's restaurants too. If you're you're good and you have it on your resume, and you're good, like, you know what you're doing, and you don't have to be trained after like a few nights, hire and fire. Yeah. So it was nice it was easier to quit these jobs when we were leaving Seattle, because we had an inkling in our heads that we could return. We can always get another one. Yeah. And that was actually what got us to move to New York. We were like, well, we can get these jobs somewhere else. Right. But at the time, our dream job, it really seemed like it was comedy. Yeah. Like, we had been doing stand-up for, like 8 years?
Right. We started stand-up in San Diego. That got awesome. We continued in Seattle. And then Seattle kind of morphed more. I started taking improv classes.
Right. And we started doing shows here, and we noticed how amazing the scene was. It's a high art here. No one goes to see the shows. It's just a collection of people's boyfriends, girlfriends, and forced neighbors. But the sketch scene here is awesome too. Yes. Seattle Sketch Fest, fabulous. The people that run it are wonderful. I've seen some of the better sketch troupes in Seattle than anywhere in the world, including UCB in New York, and like namely Pocket Theater, like Clayton Weller and all those, like,
awesome, very high, very smart.
Just
funny on
Yeah.
so many different levels. So that was good to be a part of that community. And we started
It
to be like,
inspired
oh,
us.
we love, that's when we started doing videos and,
Right.
more like humorous, like, yeah, like 3-minute, 3-4 minute
Right.
sketches and songs and stuff like that. So we were like, okay, well, let's just go to New York where it all happens.
Yeah, we had already wanted to move there. We were sick
Yeah.
of the corporate jobs, sick of the restaurant scene, needed a change. You know,
Mhm.
we like to mix it up. Let's try
I
it.
do.
And luckily you had the money. And
I did. And I had the money to float a boat for quite a while in New York.
For two.
I know. It was
Boat
great.
for two. I got a job right when we got there at the White Hotel. Because again, if you're in the industry, all you need to know is people.
I know.
If you have someone be like, I know Heather, she's legit, she's good.
Done.
You're hired. You're hired.
Right.
I got hired in a second. And
because as
fun.
someone who's a manager of restaurants, as you know, it's like to go through the interview process, you're like, please just someone send me a recommendation for God's
That's all
sake.
you need. It's who you know.
Put your name on the line.
It's
If this person puts their name on the line, that means you get it.
That means you get it.
Right.
And if it's a good person, then they're going to be like, okay, you wouldn't recommend a ship bag to me.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, and restaurant job in a new city is perfect because when I got there, like White Hotel, it's instant friends. You got 2 free drinks at the end of the night, free food. It was in the middle of Williamsburg. Crazy. Get into all the places for free. But I kind of immediately went down that road, and this happens in New York to all artists that move there to do their art, and immediately got like into that world again.
I know.
Where like you work a lot and you are always picking up shifts, and it was summer in New York, and there was weddings and events and things going on, and it was exciting, and I let myself have that summer. Yeah. Just to like booze out and party down and maybe.
But
not
it's very
so
easy
comedy.
to get into that and not be like hustling on your art game.
On your art game.
Yeah. It's so easy.
Everyone's like 4% doing their art. We're in Seattle. People were like 15 to 20% doing their art. And I know it has to do with people here, like the grade A's and whatever. Maybe you work a little more. People are a little more. They don't drink as much as New Yorkers.
No,
that's one thing.
Hell no, not nearly.
That's one thing, dude, for sure.
No one in the planet drinks as much as maybe Ireland. Nope, sorry, New York.
I don't
is
know.
More.
It's like a different
the pressure
vibe.
and the ability
Not
and the times
the
to drink.
that New Yorkers drink.
Oh, until you've stared a New Yorker in the eye when they hand you a whiskey shot and you don't take it, and they look like they're about to murder you.
Yeah,
they're like, I just bought this.
Like, why would you say no? The only way you say no if you're trying to disrespect me right now.
You better look me in the eye and take this shot.
You better look me in the eye and take. And you know what? Fuck you. Take 2.
Yeah.
Have words that have been said in a New York City bar.
There were 2 times in my life ever that I took shots between the ages of 19 and 23
oh my God.
and New York City. I was like, I'm sorry. What are you adults doing with these shots here?
It's like, we're here all night, right?
Why are we?
It is literally.
Are we
happy
going to
hour?
a frat party later, or what are we doing?
What are we doing?
Why are we drinking shots at happy hour? I wish you guys could see our faces. We're still
I'm stunned,
befuddled. And not only that, but it's like I'm drinking a like beautiful gin cocktail that I ordered, and you're trying to get me to drink shithole whiskey.
Yeah.
Why? Why?
Why? Like rail bar whiskey.
I don't want that.
Reason?
I don't want it in my body. I don't want to taste it.
I don't want it to go down
I don't need to be wasted.
I don't like it. And everyone buys whiskey shots. I don't want it.
Everyone buys whiskey shots.
Like, I'm from the West Coast. I drink tequila.
And if I do drink whiskey, it's a good whiskey, and it's slow, and it's in a cocktail, or it's like on the rocks, and I drink it slowly. I don't throw it down my throat. It's like a complete
disrespect for alcohol, which when you come from like Seattle, people are like, oh, I want the best stuff. And I mean, almost to a nerdy extent. But you appreciate what you're putting into your body.
Or if you do a shot in a beer, right? You go to a dive bar, you get a shot in a beer. But like, you order that for yourself. I not once in Seattle when I lived here before did someone just like throw a shot toward me. I'm like, that just doesn't, I mean, in our age group, it doesn't happen. Right. But in New York, I don't care if you're 65 or 81 or 102.
It's like the cokehead at the party that no one wants to do coke with them, and you're like, nah, man, like, come on, I'll give you some. That's what it feels like. Like, come on, get drunk with me, someone, please, so you can be on their level. Like, well, I'm about to get shit-faced, and I don't want to feel bad about it, so who's with me?
It's like when you're a fatty and you want to eat a bunch of food, and you're like, I'll just get the French toast for the table.
We do that.
I'm not going to order it myself. But I definitely want more than one thing.
There was like an Onion article, and the title's like, man brazenly orders $80 worth of appetizers for the table. As a server at a restaurant, I love, there's something that's so funny, is when you walk up to a group, if they're, let's say like 5 or more, right? It's usually like a corporate group or a family or something like that.
if within the first few minutes of greeting them and welcome to the restaurant and this and that, my name's Amanda, like if you don't sense that there's a leader, you're gonna have the hardest fucking time in that group. You gotta find the leader. I mean, because otherwise we're like, okay, you guys, are we drinking cocktails or wine tonight? Like our wine list is right here, right?
You
leave
need
it
that
open.
person at the table to be like, Jennifer, do you have your order?
Or they go, are you guys
ready?
And then they'll look at you and go, we need a minute. Like, so then all of a sudden you're just communicating with them.
Yeah,
but if there isn't, it's just six people looking at each other going, are you guys,
should we go? I could be ready if you're ready. I'll order last.
But I don't, are we gonna,
and then, Tom, and then I have to go, I'm gonna give you guys a minute.
Yeah.
Since you're not asking.
So y'all can figure out the hierarchy here, okay? Go into the forest, battle it out. Don't care.
You know.
Nominate someone if you have to.
Have an old shootout.
The tribal person. Nominate them.
Who's the most anal at the table? A lot of times we give it away to the person at the table that's like wants to do that job.
Right.
Figure out what you want.
Oh man, it's crazy. Well, the thing, but what's funny is like that person. If you can get to them early, the leader, you can. They're like, okay, guys, so are we ordering? You know, what do we get? Are we getting a few appetizers? I'm like, you guys are getting. I think with this menu, you should get about like 5. And they're like, all right, we're doing 5. Gotta find the leader.
But yeah, so in New York, it was like jumped right into another job, which is easy to do because you need money to support yourself. I'm in New York. I didn't have the money. You got to go straight into improv and do some art and cool shit.
Because I had a little bit of floating money, so I went and started taking classes that whole summer. I was taking UCB classes. I was, I had a small team. We were still starting to do sketch with Vanessa, with some of our friends that we had known from before.
Not even that early though.
Not that early, but we were starting to do some stand-up, some open mics and things like that.
We were getting the lay of the land. Yeah. We got in there and figured out where the open mics were.
And comedy was our next dream. It was like, hey, this is our hobby that we love, and people say we do it well. Like, let's go and really make this into a dream. But what we soon found out was we met a lot of people that were doing, at least I did, especially like the stand in certain places, that you met people that were either like touring comedians, or they started having shows, or they were like trying to get on MTV and these shows and stuff. And I was like, oh wait, I don't want to be in this world all the time. And especially stand-up, at least for me, and this is why you have to follow dreams until they lead to something else, because I wouldn't have known that the stand-up world wasn't for me had I not done it for that long and gone and talked to people who have been doing it as a career.
At UCB and see so many people with this dream doing it half-ass or full-ass, and the amount of energy that goes into like making this career. I was going to use the word work, but even just like pursuing it.
I know.
I mean, you can pursue it and never get paid, and that's still
a
career
most giant amount. Just like acting.
Yeah.
At UCB now, there's probably, I would say, and this could be wrong because it could be even more than this, I think there's maybe like 2,000 to 3,000 students that go through that school a year in New York, and they do auditions like twice a year and choose like 3 people. Mm-hmm. I don't even know math, but you guys can consider like 3,000. Right.
And then you go to open mics, and what's so funny about our comedy in New York is we made awesome shows. Like we did, it was successful.
And variety shows.
Yeah. Which was fun. And people, New Yorkers are awesome about coming out to shows. And like, again, in Seattle, it was like pulling teeth to get people to come and laugh with you in a room, even for free. In New York, I would like half mention it to my Trader Joe's like cashier, and he'd like show up. And so it was fun to have an enthusiastic audience.
Yeah.
But, it's hard to get inspired when you're working so much, and when life is like generally pretty hard.
Right. There's not a lot. It's hard to get in that creative space when you are exhausted.
Like surviving. Like it's a lot of surviving. Yeah.
And I guess some people are better at that, and I'm sure there's obviously been millions of artists throughout time that have somehow done that. But then you look at different places of the world where certain types of art or certain artists thrived, and it was where they were able to live cheaply. Maybe they were eating cheaply and all living together, but they were working on their art all the time. And they were inspired. You were in this flow mode. So big props to people who can work. I mean, I know people still that work 40, 50 hours a week and somehow are at like 6 open mics a week. And I'm just like, how do you do that? How do you get the inspiration?
But the people that were like best at it were like living it more, and they spent more time doing their craft. I mean, not everyone that did it all the time. Yeah.
And you pursue it as a career. Like I knew the channel of pursuing comedy as a career. It was like, do this and this and this. Constantly be talking to producers.
Meet everybody.
Get as many shows as you can.
We saw the holy grail. We saw how it worked.
Yeah.
And we had the moxie and the jokes to go forward with it, but it did not feel right. It didn't
No.
feel joyful. It didn't feel happy. It didn't feel like fun.
No.
It didn't feel very comedic.
No.
It's like a lot
Definitely
of drinking
didn't
in the
feel
comedy
funny.
world. There's like a lot of boozing and a lot of
Depression.
cynicism because a lot of the jokes are about how shitty everything is. And at first, it's really funny to laugh at how shitty things are and our shitty lives and our shitty dating and like my shitty boyfriend, my shitty body and my shitty face. You know what I mean? And then all of a sudden, you kind of start believing it, and then everything is kind of shitty. And there's so much competition, and everyone's just trying to like get a fucking laugh.
It's every man for
cheap
himself.
stuff for laughs. Sometimes you hate on the people doing cheap stuff for laughs. You're listening to the open mics.
If you guys out there have never been to an open mic, just a straight up comedy open mic, just for the experience, do it. Just for the experience.
Go see one. Because this is what we always said. It literally looks like someone's on stage, and off to stage left, there's a hidden man pointing a sniper rifle at this person.
At their face.
At their face, and saying, if you don't make this room fucking laugh, I will blow your brains out and kill your family. This is how nervous some people look. This is how they look.
Like they're going to die unless they get on that stage and say those 3 jokes. That's how scared they are. But that's what gave us the initial confidence to do it.
Well, I could do that.
But you wonder what gives people that internal desire,
the human resolve
to
what is
do
this?
it.
How do people get up on stage?
I know. Absolutely amazing.
It is incredible. It drew me in at first. Then after a while you start going and that person telling the same 3 jokes with the sniper rifle aimed at their head does it for 3 years.
Yeah.
And is it that level of nervous for 3 years and does the same jokes for 3 years? You're like, what am I doing here? No one's paying attention. Everyone's reading their own jokes or talking, whatever. All the jokes are the same. People are just repeating because you can't practice at home in your room. But then it is like practicing at home in your room because no one's laughing. Attention.
Well, if someone laughs at us at an open mic, that's like comedy pure gold because everyone's either waiting for their turn, so they're focusing on their material, or they don't want to laugh because they don't want to admit that you're funny because you're their direct competition. Or they already went and they're just like having a drink and like chatting with someone.
Right.
So if someone is just a random person is at an open mic, like there was some in San Diego, like a comedy store where it was a free night, so there'd be some random stragglers of just real regular humans that were there, and they were there to laugh. 1 to 3 people. If you get a laugh out of them. Oh my gosh. The only time that we ever made sense with stand-up is when we actually got shows because that's how you can tell if your jokes are funny is to real people.
To real people that aren't comedians. And that's why we started planning our own shows. Honestly, the open mics were so bad. And that's why going to New York was fun because we'd have these shows and there was an audience there and it was great. And to stare down the barrel of your dream job and have it and do it and know how it works and go. And New York, like,
I feel like people fight tooth and nail
because they're running it. You can't for a second start thinking about what you're grinding for and to live at this high of a grind. I love to hustle. I love to work, but not like that. They were I had this romantic idea. I didn't think it'd be exactly like that, but I found this one or I found this one,
They're like shopping and shopping. Just it didn't have that fiery, tingly vibe. San Diego, there's always water, there's the ocean. It was just in my life.
Nature.
And it was easy to get to into a pool in the summer. If you're crazy rich, you can do a lot in New York. If you're not, absolutely.
That kind of brought the time where I became Mini Ty.
Shout out to Mini Ty and the freaking 8-inch
guy that delivered it, no rough, no guff.
No, he just hands it to your face.
But
that brings us to close to the end of this podcast, and we want to questions that we've gotten to.